This is the week 4 update for the IBM internship. And going off of the back of last week's frustration, I decided to focus on big picture and broad ideas. So, explaining further what is Watson, what is the history of Watson, what is Watson currently doing for businesses, does any of that fit in education? Turns out it does. There is a separate little blurb about Watson within education. But before I get into that, one of the things that I researched was Watson in business. So I looked into case studies on IBM.com, which talks about Watson's success within businesses. So within the marketing department, within their IT department, within their HR department. Essentially, it's a good idea. There are a ton of case studies with many success stories about how Watson was very successful for their business. They were able to get more data, quantify all of their research questions, and ultimately they were able to be a better business. So how that would work in with kind of the cloud-based Watson applications is that with every business now, you're going to want to spread out and reach as many people as possible, which is obvious because of our globalized world nowadays. It's good to try to get as much of the market as you can. So if you can get mobile devices, if you can get laptops, social media, all of that stuff, it would be very useful for your business. And Watson achieves that. Basically, by making your business either easier to use or giving consumers the ability to have kind of a travel-sized version of your business or one of the facets that you provide. So I looked at that. The next thing I looked into was Watson in education. So there was a couple of stuff on Watson within education. Unfortunately, most of those things had to deal with high school or middle school, elementary. There was one even for preschool. And it makes a lot of sense. And from the case studies that I saw, there was a lot of success with using Watson in order to have strategic plans for students, students with disabilities, or students that needed a PEP plan, things of that nature. But what I was noticing was there weren't too many case studies that really went into universities. So either they just haven't published any case studies involving Watson on the university level, or there haven't been enough. Again, this is all just very broad research. So going into deeper research, more detail about, does Watson kind of fit within a university setting? Because universities, by and large, are a huge amalgam of people. You have different people from different areas of the United States, different parts of the world even. So being able to create applications that would help all of those different people, I can understand would be quite the undertaking. Another thing that I noticed was there was a lack of Watson within libraries. So this doesn't really come as too much of a surprise, but it was a little difficult trying to pinpoint exactly why. Maybe, libraries are something that most people have a very outdated idea of. Most people think that libraries are really old, dusty places, and there's an even older, dustier librarian telling them to be quiet. That's just not what libraries are anymore. So being able to tried to integrate Watson within libraries in order to make them more technologically efficient would be incredibly beneficial. And unfortunately, I have not been able to find any research or case studies on Watson within libraries this week. Hopefully next week, I will try to research more Watson within libraries, public or at the university level. I'm not entirely sure about special libraries yet, mainly because special libraries have a lot of different names. Another thing that I researched, very last thing, was what do libraries lack and how can IBM, specifically IBM Watson, help? It's a very broad question that requires a lot of research in order to pinpoint exactly what, generally, libraries lack. And that's public libraries and university libraries and both at the same time. So that is kind of what I have been researching, and unfortunately wasn't really able to find any information that gives me a definitive yes or no, like, yes, this is something that we need. No, this is not something that has been done. So next week, I would really like to research into more into Watson within the library, and also what libraries lack in terms of technology. And not just technology like computers and what kind of software they're using, but what kind of technology that patrons want and what they have right now. Another thing, very last thing that I would like to research next week, hopefully, would be to research and evaluate the use of Watson for universities and, by extension, their libraries. When you talk about universities, in the back of your mind, you think about a library, but that doesn't always become of the forethought. So I kind of want to find out what Watson could do in order to bring libraries, academic libraries, and libraries within the university to the forefront of maybe technology implementation plans for universities. So that about wraps it up for this week.